turn your fear into dua. Turn your anxieties into dua. Meaning, I'm scared of something. I'm terrified that XYZ is going to happen. Everyone has fears, right? Now, how do we typically deal with fear? What we typically do with fear is we feed it. How do we feed fear? By just thinking about it. And then all these scenarios come, right? I'm afraid of something happening to someone I love. So what I do is I think of all the different possible ways that something could happen to someone I love. I think of this scenario and that scenario. All I've done is I'm feeding the fear. I haven't actually solved anything. Instead of feeding fear, turn it into dua. That thing that you're afraid of, make dua about it. Simple as that. Immediately stop it, stop the thought, and then turn and focus that feeling of fear and anxiety into making dua. Ask Allah for protection. And then after you've done that, put your trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I've given it to Allah. And don't keep feeding that fear. Make sense? Okay, number 3. Take your pain, so the things that happen in your life that hurt you, things that happen that disappoint you, and turn it into growth. So use those things that happen, take the lessons from them, and grow, and continue to become a better person. And let it make you more compassionate. See, the thing is about, if you look at all the prophets, peace be upon them all, they all went through challenges in life. And you know, one of the things that these challenges do for people is it increases their empathy. It increases their compassion for others. That when you've been through something tough, you feel for others. Yeah, you feel more mercy and compassion for others. Let it make you a better person. Don't let it harden you. Let it soften you. That when you go through difficulty, let your pain soften you, not harden you. And one thing I want to remind you of is this. There's a hadith in which the Prophet ﷺ says, عَجَبٌ لِأَمْرِ الْمُؤْمِنِ. The matter of a believer is strange. أَمْرُهُ كُلُّ خَيْرٍ. That all of his or her matters are good. If there's something that you want, you're grateful, it's good for you. Something you don't want, something that hurts you, you're patient, is good for you. And this is only the case for a believer. Do you know what this hadith means? It means that no matter what happens to you in your life, as long as you respond with either gratitude or patience, is good for you. So you never lose. You actually never lose as long as you have faith and as long as you respond in the right way. So take your pain and turn it into growth and compassion and let it make you a better person. One other thing is, be mindful about this focus on your painful past. On your painful past. As they say, the past is a place of reference, not a place of residence. A place of reference. You look back at your past to learn from it, but you do not become consumed by your past. Okay? You learn from it, but you don't become consumed. And then finally, my last piece of advice, number 4, is protect yourself. Have a shield of protection. And that shield of protection is through your dhikr, through your remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I told you that dhikr is food. Dhikr is food for the soul. It's also protection. When you look at the collection of dua, what is it called? Fortress of a Muslim. It's called Hisn al-Muslim. It's a collection of du'as that protect you. It's a fortress. So 3 things in the dhikr that I'm going to say. Number 1 is the salah. The salah has to be something that you don't compromise on. It's breathing oxygen, right? Number 2 is the adhkar. The adhkar is something you can download apps onto your phone for dua. My Dua is one example of a really great app. And what you can do is, after every morning Fajr prayer, open your app and read the morning supplications. Then after Asr, open your app and read the evening supplications. And before you sleep, read the ones for sleep. Okay? These du'as will absolutely revolutionize your state, revolutionize how you react to the world, how you live. It becomes a protection for you. As I mentioned, there's waswasa all the time from shaitan and from the nafs. This becomes a shield, these adhkar. And then the last part is Quran. Make sure you have a consistent relationship with the Quran, and this will be, part of the shield that protects you. Now, all these 4 things, I'm just going to recap. Be careful what you focus on, and what you focus on grows. Make sure, and what you focus on is affected by what you ingest, okay? By what you entertain, by your thoughts, and which kinds of thoughts you allow in, feed, entertain. Number 2, turn your fear into dua. Number 3, turn your pain into growth. And number 4, protect yourself through the dhikr, the adhkar, the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم إنه غفور رحيم سبحانك الله وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. I believe we have a few minutes, inshallah, for Q&A. Yes. Anyone have any questions? I guess I just explained everything just so perfectly that there's no... Okay, go ahead.
You talk about all these things, but of course, like, your demand's always going to go up and down. So what's your biggest advice? Because when it's up, we think we're on top of the world.
Right.
And then when it's down, it's very easy to fall into despair. So how do we go back
from the lows? Okay, great question. I'll repeat her question. So all of these things, they're easy when you're high, right? In your iman, when you're in an iman high. But what happens when you're in an iman low? Because obviously iman rises and falls. We know this from the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, where Abu Bakr and another companion comes to him and says, we've become hypocrites. And he says, why? He says, because when we're with you, we see our iman is so high, it's as if we see Jannah and Jahannam with our eyes, but when we go with our families, our iman is different, and it goes down. And the Prophet ﷺ said, if your iman was the same all the time as when you're with me, the angels would shake hands with you in the streets. And so he teaches even them, right? These are the best people, and yet their iman goes up and down too. And this is part of what? Being human. So what he teaches us is how to handle the lows. And this is how you handle the lows. Everything that I said in these 4, like I gave you a prescription of 4 things, right? Make sure that you hold on to those things, high or low. If you hold on to your salah, no matter how you're feeling, if you hold on to your adhkar, no matter how low you're feeling, it just becomes like I have a question for you. When you're feeling depressed, do you stop breathing? When you're having a bad day, do you stop, I haven't brushed my teeth for a month, or I haven't taken a shower for 5 months. Like, we don't do these things. Why? Regardless of how high or how low I am, I have to keep breathing to stay alive. And I have to keep taking a shower, and I have to keep, brushing my teeth. I have to still keep eating and drinking water. These are just bare minimums to stay alive. And so this spiritual prescription that I gave is just like that. It's like oxygen, water, food. It just keeps you alive. And what happens if you stick to these things, especially salah? Like, I'm going to tell you this. Everything I've given you, these are all like, dude, don't eat poison if you don't want to die. Keep eating if you want to stay. That's all necessary. But salah is like oxygen. Meaning, you give up salah, it's like immediate death. You get it? You might be able to hobble around as long as you have oxygen if you're not eating healthy or whatever. But without oxygen, don't even talk to me about anything because you're going to be dead. Salah is like that. Makes sense? Fair enough? Just think of it like that. So when you're in an iman low, don't give up your salah. You get it? You just think of salah, even if you feel like, but my quality of my salah is awful right now. But you know what? Have you ever been to Cairo? The quality of the oxygen there is pretty awful. But you have to still breathe. You know what I'm saying? The quality, it's so polluted. Yeah, but you can't say, well, you know what? Right now I'm in Cairo and the quality of the air is just not perfect. So I'm just going to breathe next month when I'm back in wherever. This doesn't work. Or next year or whenever I'm leaving. You know what I mean? So the idea is that, yes, we might not be having a perfect salah at that moment. We may not be at the top of our iman game, but you have to stay alive anyways. And what happens eventually is you'll go back up, as long as you don't let go of the bare minimum. And the bare minimum is oxygen, my sister. It's like, it's oxygen, it's food, it's water. And then you'll be able to go back up eventually. But here's the problem. The problem comes that when you're at your low and you say, you know what, I might as well just stop praying. Because you know what? Shaitan comes and says, you're just like, your salah is terrible. You're committing this sin. You're committing that sin. You're just a hypocrite. You're going to go pray? So just stop praying. Oh, and while you're at it, you might as well take off your hijab too, because you're just a terrible person. And then when you start to give in to those thoughts, that's what happens, is you just start going lower and lower and lower. And that's the whole objective, isn't it? I mean, that's his objective, is to make you go into despair. So really my advice is just stay alive spiritually, and you'll, like the Prophet ﷺ said, Iman rises and falls. You will go back up. Everything in life, nothing stays the same. But if you stop breathing when you're low, then that's the problem. That's when a person drowns. Yeah, that's just hold on to your life jacket and you'll be okay. You'll go back. Any other? Yes.
So how do you translate that into your daily living? Obviously, we're not living in a vacuum. You concentrated, which is a great talk, a great presentation, on how to improve yourself, response and purify your soul, purify your. But at the same time, what is it that we're dealing with day-to-day activity with people, with life, with events, with what's going on, in our society here, in TV, in the country, in the world. So how do we deal with that also? Because one thing is to purify ourselves in our responses. At the same time, we keep being bombarded by all of those, extraneous factors that are affecting our life too. We don't live in a tent.
True. So what he's saying is, how do you deal with everyday life, the challenges? Okay, these are all like important principles, but what do we do about this stuff that's bombarding us, negative news, this and that? Everything I said is absolutely connected to that. So what I'm saying is, someone might listen to this and say, okay, that's all great, that's stuff you do in the masjid, but then what do I do about this? But that's my whole point. Everything that I said right now is absolutely intimately connected to how I'm dealing with all that. See, the Prophet ﷺ, when he said, let me give you an example. When he said that the people will soon come together to attack you, like people call one another to eat from their dish. And then the companions asked, is it because we will be small in number? And he said, no, you will not be small in number. But what will happen is that Allah will take the fear of you out of the hearts of your enemy, and in your heart will be something called wahan. And he said that you will also be like the froth on the ocean. On the ocean there's just these little bubbles. It has no power, no determination. It just goes wherever the tide takes it. And he said this disease that's in the hearts of the people, that's what's going to make them weak politically. Because he says your enemies are going to attack you. That's a political situation, right? That's a political circumstance, and it's external. But he's linking it to the internal. He's linking it to this disease called wahan. And what does he define it as? حُبِّ الدُّنْيَا وَكَرَاهِيَةُ الْمَوْتِ. It's the love of dunya and the hatred of death. So we can't actually separate these things. That our condition outside is connected to our condition inside. إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُغَيِّرُ مَا بِقَوْمٍ حَتَّى يُغَيِّرُ مَا بِأَنفُسِهِمْ. That Allah doesn't change the condition of a people until they change what's inside themselves. I'm not talking that we don't work, or we don't do activism, or we don't get involved. Of course we do. We do. But we cannot neglect the internal work, because all the external work in the world will not be effective if we're not working inside. That's what the ayah means. Inna Allah la yughayyiru ma biqawmin hatta yughayyiru ma bi anfusihim. Allah doesn't change the condition of a people. We can do all the activism and political work that we want. We can bang our head against every wall, and we can try to be involved in every campaign, and absolutely nothing will change until we change ourselves. And that's my point. I'm not saying we only do one. I'm not saying we only read Quran in the masjid and do our adhkar. That's not it. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying without that, we're never going to see change. And it is not enough to just do activism. And it is not enough to just be involved in that campaign and this. It's not going to change our condition until I change inside. And so we have to do both. We actually have to do both. There has to be people working at different levels, but every single individual, this is a fard ayn. The fard ayn, the individual fard obligation, is the internal work. Yes, there's going to be people working external, this person's doing this job. We all have different roles, but the role that every single one of us has a fard ayn, like an individual fard, is internal. The tazkiyah, the purification and feeding of the heart and the soul, is something every single person needs to do. And when we start to change and purify ourselves inside, our entire condition will change. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala promises. But it won't happen until we do that. And if we continue to neglect what's happening to us inside, these diseases that are taking over our hearts, we're never going to see change. And it's not going to matter how many political groups we're part of or how many campaigns we work. It's not going to actually change our condition. I think that a lot of people having faith crisis because they don't understand how this question of why do bad things happen to good people, and they can't reconcile it, and it makes them lose their faith. Or they say things like, God doesn't love me, and they just lose their faith. First of all, the reason why I quoted that hadith is because the hadith that I quoted, the ajabun li amri al-mu'min, the matter of a believer is strange, that hadith teaches us that bad things never happen to good people. That in fact, whatever happens to a believer is good for him or her. And it has everything to do with my response. Okay? But that's a different way of looking at the world. See, if I see everything that happens to me as a way to get closer to Allah, then everything becomes good for me, even if it's painful. Make sense? So, when you get a shot, suppose you're sick and you need a shot of medicine. And this medicine is going to actually save your life, but it has to be through a shot. What are you gonna say? Okay, right? Yes, there's some temporary pain, but it's curing me. The needle has medicine that's curing me. That's a different way of understanding versus a child who doesn't understand. They're just gonna look at that needle and just scream and cry and just be angry, right? Because they don't understand that it's medicine. So it has to do with, number one, it has to do with understanding that everything Allah gives us as a believer is good for us, even when it comes through a needle. Even if it comes and I don't understand it. Another example is if we go outside now and your mom is picking you up, she's driving, and you ask her, where are we going? And she says, just wait and see. Are you gonna phone the police because you're really scared? Are you gonna be like, yo, 911, I'm being taken somewhere, I don't know where it is. Why aren't you gonna call the police? Because you trust your mom, that's it. But if it was a stranger that you didn't trust, you'd call the police. Do you understand? So the reality is that sometimes Allah does things in our life and we don't understand. We don't understand. He's taking us somewhere, we don't know where. But if you trust Allah, then you're not going to be scared. You're not going to be anxious and worried. You may not know, like in this example, you don't know where your mom's taking you, but you trust your mom completely. You're not worried that she's going to hurt you. But we don't have enough trust in Allah. This is the problem. So a lot of it has to do with getting to know Allah. Really. Like the answer to your question is, these people, these youth, it's about getting to know who Allah is. Because the more we know Allah, the more we put our trust in Him. If we know, first of all, Allah is Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. Allah is, He has so much mercy for us, even more than a mother for her child. If we knew that, if we really knew that, then we wouldn't be worried. You understand? Husn al-dhann billah. What's husn al-dhann billah? It means, just like, remember you said you're not scared of your mom? Why? Because you know she has your best interest in mind. You're not worried she's going to take you, throw you in a ditch and leave you. You have a good opinion of your mom. See, husn al-dhann billah means you have a good opinion of Allah. You know that whatever Allah is doing with you is for your own good. That's part of knowing Allah. And when you know who Allah is, that He has your best interest in mind, that He's not going to hurt you, then it becomes easier to cope, even when you don't understand. Even when you have to take a needle. Even when you don't know exactly where you're going, but you have full hope and trust in Allah, that He has your best interest in mind. So I mean, that's really what it is. It has to do with knowing who Allah is, and then putting your trust in Him and knowing that He's not gonna make you get lost or hurt you. Everything Allah does is for our own good. The matter of a believer is strange. Everything is good for them. Any last question? Yes.
Well said. A lot of things you said I thought were really, inspiring in terms of just our connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and our spirituality is very central. But what I also feel like is, I have a question about is that you could do that and live kind of a very individualistic life, right? Where you're kind of, I'm praying my salah, but I'm most praying by myself. I'm doing my adhkar, but I'm not really connecting with my family members or people in my community, especially in places like Northwest Indiana where we don't have a huge Muslim community like in Chicago or other places. So my question kind of relates to when you feel that type of separatedness from the Muslim community, what then becomes what then is the role of community within all of this, right? So it seems that seems to be a really necessary aspect of feeling grounded, feeling positive, but how do we actually go about doing that when we're forced to be separated from one another?
Okay, great question. So to repeat his question, a lot of what we spoke about right now was individualistic. How does community fit? Okay, especially he's saying in this situation, you guys are you have a small community, it's not that easy to be connected to the community. Where does community fit in? That's a whole, a discussion in and of itself. A lot of times I give this talk, and one of the take-home messages that I try to impart to others is this, to sort of summarize. If you study the ayah, the Quran and the Hadith and the Sunnah, you'll find that there's one theme again and again and again throughout the text, and that's this. Treat that the way we treat the creation is how we should expect the Creator to treat us. You're going to find this theme again and again. How we are with people, and it isn't only people, but even animals. You'll see this theme. How we treat the creation is how the Creator will treat us. And I give you example after example. The Prophet ﷺ said, have mercy on the people, have mercy on those who are on the earth, and the one in the heavens will have mercy on you. So mercy. And then the other side too, the one who does not have or show mercy will not be shown mercy by God. Again, that connection, that parallel. We're told, for example, in a hadith, that if we help another person in need, Allah will help us when we're in need. That if we say, if a person is in a difficult situation and we help them out of that difficult situation, Allah will help us on the Day of Judgment. And if we shield the flaws of another person, Allah will shield our flaws. And again, these parallels. So much so, to point out, the extent of this, the Prophet ﷺ says in this Sahih Hadith that he said that I prefer to walk with my brother/sister in their time of need than to be in i'tikaf in this masjid. And he's pointing at which masjid? Masjid al-Nabawi. Okay, so we're not even just talking about this masjid, may Allah bless your masjid, but we're talking about the Masjid al-Nabawi in Medina, where one prayer is equivalent to 1,000 in another masjid. He's saying that I prefer to help my brother in need, in his walk with my brother in their time of need, than to be in i'tikaf in this masjid for a certain period of time, not just one night. So this shows us the extent of our relationships with one another, how important that is with regards to our relationship to Allah. And one of the things that you'll find is sometimes the fastest way to, for example, get the forgiveness of Allah is to forgive someone who's wronged you. You know how I know that? Because in the Quran, in the time when Abu Bakr radiallahu anh, he found out that one of the people accusing his daughter or spreading the rumor about Aisha radiallahu anha was a relative. And a relative who he was financially supporting. Right? And Allah reveals a verse about this because when Abu Bakr radiallahu anh found out about this, all he did was stop the financial support. He didn't go looking for revenge or try to harm this man. He was financially supporting this man. All he does is withhold. What would we do? That's all he does, withhold the financial support. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reveals an ayah about this incident at this time. And Allah says, let them pardon and overlook. أَلَا تُحِبُّونَ أَن يَغْفِرَ اللَّهُ لَكُمْ? This is what Allah says. Let them pardon and overlook. Do you not love for Allah to forgive you? So you see the connection that's made here is Allah is saying that us forgiving this person who wronged us is parallel to Allah forgiving us. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Messenger make these parallels all the time. How we are with people is how we should expect Allah to be with us. Very important. You cannot separate the community from the individual.